Raise your hand if you've ever decided to make it a tradition to watch horror movies during Valentine's Day. Just me? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Critical Commentary. I'm Taylor, and I am so excited to talk about the new psychological thriller, Saint Maud. So Saint Maud is actually a 2019 Toronto International Film Festival submission by Rose Glass, but because of what year should not be named, we're finally getting it this weekend. Little mini breakdown, it's okay. Like, if you haven't totally lost your mind and gone completely marbles at this point, thank you. So, kind of getting into, I guess, the relevance of the feelings that people have during 2021 and 2020 specifically. This is a movie that it really questions the boundaries between religious fanaticism and mental illness. And it's very interesting that this movie is coming out at a time where I feel faith and spirituality and hope are kind of intertwined with a lot of doubt and anxiety. And this movie really felt like I was supposed to be watching it. To sum it up, I mean, not to make it seem weird, but it definitely was a movie I'm glad I saw, because it really just gets into the nitty gritty, and it has amazing cinematography. It has some of the best shots ever, I feel, especially in 2020. I mean, you can maybe compare it to some other stuff. I mean, none of the shots are original in the sense of the mechanics, but it's definitely original in how it's being used. So this movie is super atmospheric in its shots, in how everything is just put into focus. One of the things that I really loved about it is there is a scene, or a few scenes actually, where you notice that the camera's upside down. It kind of gives this nice perversion to reality, which I think is a main theme in this movie. There's also a significant amount of like body horror and physical contortion, which I do have to commend the actress who played Maud for that. It really kind of allowed us to not have so much of that CGI that I think you see in a lot of horror films. I mean, there is CGI in this movie, but at the same time, it's used when it needs to be. It's not just used because it's part of the budget. And with that cinematography, you also get a significant amount of imagery. And I think that the imagery in this movie is very nice because it kind of has you questioning, you know. I found myself questioning, you know, is she really talking to God, or is she talking to something else? Because we're almost not really in the perspective of Maud. We're in the perspective of the person she's talking to. There's a scene where she's talking at the camera and you realize she's talking to us, but we're responding back obviously in a different language. But we are the ones observing. We are in the God's point of view. And I think that's really interesting how it doesn't take a stand in its political leanings or its religious leanings as regards to how religion can be both empowering and somewhat consuming. And I feel like Glass was able to ride that line in a way that was both respectful to both sides and fully explored. And you see this in the two characters of Maud and Amanda. So we observe this topic in the two main characters, Amanda and Maud. Like I said in the beginning, Amanda is a retired dancer, and she has this girlfriend that's a lot younger than her. And it's kind of obvious that she's hit the point where she is accepting her death and trying to live the most hedonistic life possible, which means she kind of is allowing people who are sycophantic into her personal space, and that's something that Maud sees. Now, Maud, being a somewhat new convert to the Catholic religion, she sees this hedonistic behavior, this cry for help, as a cry for help. And she gets it into her mind that I should go ahead and I should try and save your soul, which never goes well ever. I mean, I don't know. It's a little weird. It's a little weird to be obsessed with someone and their soul. But I mean, I guess it's not weird. I mean, what's more romantic than wanting to save someone's soul? I wish I could do like the eyebrow thingies here. I can't. I can't. I can do this. Kind of. So one of the things that I like the most about this movie is the fact that we get to experience this complete mental degradation through the eyes of our protagonist and through her words. So we have an inner monologue going on as our narration for the duration of the film. And it's interesting because it does, it makes us question if Maud's a credible character, which we soon find out is no. It's usually no. I mean, there's bias in almost all narrators if you're getting into the semantics of it, but we start to empathize with her. We start to see her empowerment as well as her demise through her finding faith, through this allowing God to almost possess her in both literal and physical forms. You know, I would consider myself spiritual now, but I grew up Presbyterian, went to Catholic school, and I the way that I kind of see the inner monologue versus the interactions between Amanda and Maud is kind of that whole idea of our relationship with higher beings or higher power or energy or spirit or whatever nomenclature you want to give it, and how people perceive us or how people perceive faith, and how faith has been translated in the modern era. You know, this is not a movie set in any sort of period past the present. You know, this is, as far as we're concerned, 2019. So this is a very modern take on religion. And to be honest, it's kind of not even a modern take. I think that this is something that we've been discussing or that we have been dealing with in regards to religious persecution, evangelicism, and embracing your faith and not hiding it. And this movie really gets into that, but it also gets into the fact that some people may take it too far and use it to hurt others. So if we were to discuss this in terms of mental health, you could probably diagnose Maud with schizophrenia and grandiose delusions. If you don't know what grandiose delusions are, I can give you a basic understanding as someone who is studying mental health. Pretty much, it is a delusion where someone believes that they are either in some sort of superiority, they believe that they are special. Sometimes they believe that they were put here with a higher purpose, and this can also sometimes be translated into believing that God has come to them to complete a mission. Now, as someone who is pragmatic but also super into the supernatural, I decided to take this movie with a grain of salt in regards to mental health. I actually preferred liking it as a supernatural psychological thriller than a mind map of schizophrenia and how people are perceived with it and how it originates. Because we do see at the beginning of this movie that something has happened to Maud that makes her feel like she needs to convert, change her name. So I eventually want to talk about Amanda and Maud's relationship. But before I get into that, I want to kind of bring up some itty bitty things, little Easter eggs that I thought were significant. I don't know if there was necessarily an argument used or if it was just for an illusion, but I really wanted to bring them up because I did think that they held some sort of significance to the film overall. 1. The beetle. I thought that the beetle was a representation of metamorphosis by Kafka. And I also think it was meant to show Maud's overall transformation, be that physical by the fact that she wants to join God in heaven, or her overall conversion to Catholicism itself. The second thing I really liked was that you start to notice as the movie progresses that one of Maud's eyes change color. And by the beginning of the third act, we get into a scene where you can see the light flashing right into her eyes, and it indeed fact shows that she has one brown eye and one blue eye. So I thought that was really interesting. I wanted to know what that meant in regards to religion. I know that there are some sort of superstitions around it, and what I did find was that in indigenous cultures, it's considered it's ghost eyes is what it's called. And ghost eyes are pretty much the idea that you are connected to heaven and earth. You're both of the mortal and celestial realm, which is kind of cool considering that's kind of how Maud sees herself. She sees herself as a savior and is even called a savior by Amanda, both as a compliment and as a joke on her behalf. And I think that having her eyes change also are symbolic or could be construed as a symbolic possession. You know, she's now becoming possessed by the Lord, possessed by spirit, or possessed by evil, as we see in the last scene. So now I want to get into the relationship between Maud and Amanda. I'm honestly very confused by that relationship. On one hand, it seems like both cared for each other, but at the same time, it also sounded like they wanted to change each other, which I think is a very nice, it's a nice message of people wanting to change others who have different worldviews from them. So Maud wants to save Amanda's soul, and Amanda wants Maud to loosen up a little bit. And so it becomes this very complicated and ultimately hurtful relationship that they have, because you find that Amanda will appease Maud's fanaticism or her devoutness when she wants to pray during dinner, or when she tries to anoint her in her bed with the holy water she's made in her sink. And eventually it makes Amanda so angry that she becomes very reactive, and she decides to tell Maud that what she believes just simply doesn't exist as an objective fact, when in reality we don't know. We don't know. This relationship is both freeing and suffocating for both of them, because it does give them someone to connect with, but because they're so fundamentally different people, those differences end up being what destroys the relationship. So we're now getting into the deep into the third act, and I thought that this was a really awesome turn. I really liked having the supernatural elements become more of a thing, because at this point we are still questioning if these things are happening to her or if these things are in her head. So near the end of Act 3, Maud decides to sneak into Amanda's house one night so that she can officially try to save her soul against her will. Anyways. So she sneaks into the house and she attempts to anoint Amanda with holy water that she's made from her sink. And Amanda is at first really just annoyed, starts to kind of fight with her, tell her that she's being delusional and that she's being crazy and that she's, quote,
"You must be the loneliest girl I've ever seen."
And this starts to make Maud really upset, especially when Amanda continues to protest to her that God does not exist and that she's alone. Amanda turns into a demon or a possessed person and starts to criticize Maud for being so weak and so small of a person and how she couldn't pass this last test. And to be honest with you, this kind of gave me like vibes of Pan's Labyrinth a little bit, like not in anything that was super concrete, but just in the fact of like that doubt in your mission and not being sure if what you're doing is the right thing. No, just me. Again. So Amanda's this possessed being, so she's fighting off and like throwing Maud across the room, which is very not polite. But Maud gets upset to the point where she ends up stabbing and killing Amanda. And we're left wondering, was she possessed? Like, did you save her? Because I want to know. Maud is able to escape without being detected and decides to go back home, where she prepares herself for her last test. She ends up walking on a beach, which everyone is staring at her and looking at her like she's crazy. And you see that as she's walking towards the beach, there's an opening in the sky, which I've actually seen before. It's very scary, but it's also very comforting depending on where you at, if you do have faith or you want to see some sort of meaning in it. But the hole in the sky is showing light. She douses herself with gasoline, and then she lights herself on fire. And one of the things that's interesting about this scene is because as she does it, you see her wings grow, and she starts to metamorphose into this celestial being. And you see everybody that is around the beach or at the beach coming towards her and bowing on their knees almost in praise of her. And this is where the movie just totally rips out your heart and just makes you question everything you saw. The last 3 seconds, of this movie, you see her go from this glowing, beautiful thing to being consumed in ash and fire and brimstone. And it makes me wonder, was that just reality? Was that her going to hell and not heaven? Was she ever talking to God? Was she only talking to the devil? I know that there's always that saying that, angels speak a celestial language, and it would make sense that the devil would also speak that language, considering the fact that the devil, Lucifer, Morningstar, used to be an angel. It has you questioning if what you're doing is even the right thing, because who do you even know if you're who do you know who you're talking to? It's like being on AIM and just seeing a username. Millennial joke. Bad timing. Okay. That's what makes this movie so good. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know if you're talking to the light or the darkness. And I think that because there is no full-on stance with where the director or even the protagonist stand in regards to their fate, in regards to her fate, it's pretty spectacular. This was a really good movie. And I don't know if I'd ever see it again. No, I definitely would totally see it again. This was a good movie. This is a movie that I would be sitting on the couch making someone else watch while the entire time staring at them, wondering if they liked it as much as I liked it, because I need external validation. What did you think about Saint Maud? Please leave me a comment down below, because I just want to talk about this movie with somebody, and it's so hard to talk about obscure indie films. So please comment, talk to me. Also, share, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to follow me on social media at Critical Com with 2 M's TV. I post kind of a lot on there. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm sorry. But I will make sure to be a little bit more interactive. I've been thinking of doing some things just to kind of increase engagement, but I need your help. So please make sure to like my videos and let me know if there's any other stuff that you want me to cover on Critical Commentary. Okay, bye.